Next question.
Please, you can go to the city website. You can see
all
the
that
study
information is
that
public
shows it.
information.
Say it. Just say it. Say it.
I think he did.
Say it, Matthew.
The housing portion produces about $10 million for the redevelopment agency, and then obviously there are extra sales tax retail from retail that will be spent.
And what's the parking? Our houses, our streets can become parking lots for the state.
We're going to answer that question.
That's the biggest question, I think.
We'll answer that question, but please, raise your hand if you have a question. I'm trying to get to everybody. Question dealt with people parking all over your neighborhood.
The first part, let me answer the first part of his question, which was in terms of the earthquake fault, the Hayward fault running through the residential area on this side of the 680. Basically, we've actually checked with our contractors and structural engineers, and basically when they build the stadiums, they account for all the faults and everything, and they've looked at it, and it's actually going to be just as easy to build over here as it would at Pacific Commons in the Bay Mud. So they've looked at that piece. The other piece too is most of these stadiums, we've already been in discussion with the American Red Cross. A lot of these stadiums end up becoming rescue areas designated by the Red Cross as safe zones, and it would be built to that capacity. So we would end up doing, so that hopefully answers your question on that.
I was a business owner. I'm required to pay taxes not only to the city, but also to the federal government in advance to what I expect to earn. You have an expectation based on your business plan as to what you expect to earn. So clearly you have an idea of what taxes, you're talking about redevelopment fee and all the other stuff. That has nothing whatsoever to do with your earning capacity and your personal business proposal that says, here is what I am going to give to the city because this is what I totally expect to earn. I would like you to answer that in a number, not a, I've done a study and somebody else will do a study. I'm not interested in the study.
That unfortunately, it's not. The way it works is when a city looks at the economic impact of a business or a project or a ballpark, they do an analysis of all the tax revenues that come to the city, and that's typically how that gets evaluated. So I'm sorry I can't answer any more detail. I'd be happy to talk to you afterwards. In terms of the parking, we have some of our own ideas that we presented in some of our groups, and we're happy to listen to other ideas. Around places like UCLA and Stanford and Palo Alto, they do parking permit programs. So it prevents anyone without a permit. If you have a guest, you have a guest permit. So there are ways to prevent people from parking your neighborhood. We would pay all those costs. We have a plan. It's part of our presentation that we typically give. We're open to ideas if people don't like that idea, but we think that is a way to protect and make sure no one parks in the residential neighborhood, and we would make that commitment to make sure that that was paid for and followed up by our group.
You said earlier that baseball stadiums should improve the quality of life. How would increasing noise pollution, traffic, as well as having 35,000 strangers here, 3/4 of the year, help improve the quality of life of single-family neighborhoods? Being a good example of a good stadium, it's completely different demographics. We're talking about single-family homes compared to 60% of urban young professionals living in San Francisco.
No,
I'm confused. I don't understand your logic.
No, I agree with you that it's a different example. But the question was, do stadiums make areas worse? It's basically when... It should vote. Okay, and so the answer to that was that there are great examples of stadiums that have turned around areas that are in bad shape. So that was the context of that answer. Yes, you are correct that there are very few examples, because there are only 30 baseball stadiums in the entire country anyways, but there are a few examples of stadiums that haven't been built in downtown in a long time. But there are examples like Arlington that are of a similar size in Fremont, and and that's hopefully...
What about current quality of life? How would that improve the quality of life?
In terms of, again, I think it's probably all personal preference, but, we think that having a ballpark does add to the quality of life, and again, if you need to look at some of the ballparks around the world. In terms of quality of life, let me give you an example that we talk about in all our presentation. In terms of giving back to a community, ballparks and teams part of their DNA, part of their culture is about giving back to the community. Last year, we basically provided, I think, about 20% of our entire community fund here in Fremont, supporting different causes, different community events throughout the city. And that's part of having a team in your city. And we supported about 90 different groups last year. So in terms of quality of life, that is one thing.
Will the crime rate increase in the neighborhood?
Good question. Good question. Good question. That's a smart little girl.
I've only called 2 kids questions. I think it's fair. Okay, good. Thank you.
That's a better question.
So the question dealt with crime, and so
Let him answer. Okay? We've got video cameras here. That's what they answer.
In terms of crime in the neighborhood, the only thing I can say is that we will provide the support to make sure that the neighborhood.
no, there will be no city bond to pay for this.
That's number one question. Number two question is, what I'm hearing you say is that there are 30 baseball stadiums, and you have no exact feedback to give us as far as putting it in a neighborhood such as ours.
Oh no, Arlington, Texas.
We hope we can come up.
In Arlington, I've never been to Arlington. Is it like our community? I'm afraid I don't want to baseball in my swimming pool. I mean, are the demographics the same?
No. Basically, no. There are more. No, they're not theme parks all around. There's a theme park there. There is basically within a 1 and 2 mile radius. There's the same number or more residential units around Arlington. Now again, I can't tell you.
What the value of the unit? But we have one place where our houses are $1 million houses here.
You know, they are in Palo Alto, right around Stanford Stadium as well.
It is a big buffer. That's a big buffer.
What's that? What other events are you planning?
What other events are we planning there? Hip-hop concert. On the radar screen. So let him answer that question.
There's one guy doing B-roll.
In terms of the question of whether or not there'll be concerts.
Can people here want to listen to the answer to the questions? And you're, excuse me, I'm speaking, please listen.
You're being very
We'd
rude.
like to answer the questions of those. If you want to disrupt the meeting, I ask that you please go outside.
Why are you here?
Let me just answer the question. So,
Listen to as many questions as you can.
I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you for coming out. Public process will begin as soon as the city deems it to begin. You'll have an opportunity to have it.
Can do. This is not productive. Tell them what they can do. Raise money. Go to the city council. Get this crowd to the city council meeting.
That's what they're doing. They're going to hear us.
You guys have no idea. That's what you want to do.
Do you guys know what you guys can do? Do you guys know what you guys can do? Letter to your city council. Attend city council meeting. Okay?
Right. We can all go to the next city council meeting. All right? This crowd, next city council meeting. There are 5 people that get to vote. Shouting here doesn't change anything.
Okay. Hold on.